Welcome to Love and Abuse, the show about helping you identify poisonous communication and toxic behavior. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. That's why it's important that you learn to pinpoint manipulative and controlling behavior so that you keep your power and your sanity. I'm your host, Paul Coliani. Welcome to another episode of Love and Abuse. As a reminder, all the information on this show is meant for educational purposes only. Always seek a professional for your mental health and well-being. So I received the question quite a bit about can the emotional abuser change? And the answer is yes, only if they feel empathy, only if they know that they're hurting you and they care that they're hurting you. They can change even when it seems like they can't. However, you need to find out if they can change by asking them a couple questions and then waiting for them to actually act upon their answer. And what I mean by that is you can ask them the question, do you realize that what you're doing is hurting me? I think that's a valid question. When you're being emotionally abused or when you feel harassed or abused in any way in your relationship, do you realize you're hurting me? What this does is allow them to react from a non-defensive place. It is a way to convey how you're feeling, just like saying, I care about you. It's the same conveyance. Do you realize that you're hurting me? It's not the same words and it's not the same message. But you say in a way where it's not offensive to them, where it doesn't seem like you're attacking them. And when you come from a non-attacking, non-aggressive space, and you come from a space of, hey, I love you, do you know you're doing this? It gives them a chance to respond from a more authentic place inside of them. It may not be authentic if you put them on the defense. So by saying, do you realize you're hurting me? It gives them a chance to really check in and figure this out. It's an empowering moment for them. You are allowing this moment to take place inside of them. You're not forcing them to say anything that you want to hear or that they think they should say. They may say something that they think they should say, but what you're doing is you're giving them the opportunity to respond in a way that is real for them, and it isn't pushed upon them, that isn't forced upon them. And so I think it's important every time you communicate with someone that may be being emotionally abusive or manipulative or controlling, that you question them in a way that doesn't back them into a corner, that fires off their fight or flight mechanism. Because that's usually what's controlling them, controlling you. That's usually what kicks in as their protector, their survival mode, to keep you in a space that they feel most comfortable. So when you are dealing with someone that is harassing or abusing and you respond in a way that offends them or puts them on the defense or makes them think they have to survive so their fight or flight kicks in, then you're going to get more bad behavior. So I think the best way to respond or talk to someone like that is to come from a place of love. You know, I love you, and do you know you're doing this? Do you realize you're doing this? And find out the response that you get. Because the response that you get is going to be very telling. It's going to give away big clues or the answer, maybe an answer that you don't want to hear, but hopefully one that you do want to hear. And that answer might be, no, I didn't know I was hurting you. Or, no, I don't mean to hurt you. And that could come out, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But they could also say, yes, I know I'm hurting you. And I've had somebody write to me and tell me I asked that question, and they did say, yes, I know I'm hurting you. And from there, what do? Now you have evidence, not really evidence, but now you have concrete data. What you do with that concrete data is going to make all the difference from that point on. Because you could go into denial mode and just think, well, you know, they're still here and they must still love me or they must still care about me or they're still in my life if it's not a romantic relationship. and, they keep showing up, so there must be something there. This is denial, because someone who hurts you isn't going to feel those things for you. And I hate to say that because that might be a downer. I don't mean to be a downer. I just mean when you have concrete data that indicates someone knows they're hurting you, then that's important for you to know, because that means you have someone in your life that might be dangerous or is dangerous. It may not be a physical danger at this point. It could turn into that. It sometimes does. But you have to be aware that when someone knows they're hurting you and they do it and they keep doing it, then you need to make decisions that are better for you. Now, the second question that comes up after you ask the first question, let's just say they say, no, I didn't know I was hurting you. And they even feel bad. Well, whether they feel bad or not, the second question is, now that you know, will you stop? Will you stop hurting me? Again, this is giving them the opportunity to come up with the solution themselves, to come up with the favored outcome that is best for you and the relationship and for them. It's empowering them. And every step along the way of trying to help someone stop abusing you, which even sounds ridiculous to say, but this is what happens. We are trying to help someone stop abusing us, stop harassing us, stop controlling us and manipulate us by asking the question, do you realize that what you're doing is hurting me? And then the follow-up question, if they say, no, I didn't realize that, now that you do, will you stop? And depending on what they say, again, is going to be telling. It's going to give you an answer, whether you like it or not, but at least it should be a conversation. The healthier the relationship, the more likely you'll have a conversation, a two-way conversation about it. Not a one-way conversation where one's dominant and just talking over you and you have to listen and there's nothing you can say that's right. This is a two-way conversation where the other person goes, yeah, well, I'm working on this and you're right and I need help and we need to talk about this every time I do this. And hopefully the conversation goes like that. Now, if they say, yes, I know I'm hurting you, then your question would be, then why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep hurting me knowing it hurts me? And how they answer, again, will be telling. It will let you know the concrete data that you need to know. Now, what could happen is you don't get a concrete answer. You might get someone, I don't even like this term, but I'm going to use it, pussyfooting around. You might get them just delaying or kicking a rock with their hands in their pocket saying something like, I don't know. I don't know why I keep hurting you. It's just what I do, or I don't know where it comes from. This could be true, and it could be a lie. So the question then comes again, well, now that you know, will you please stop doing it? Listen to that answer. That answer is going to tell you a lot. That answer is going to tell you where you stand with them. I mean, if you want to know if you can help the emotional abuser, the manipulator, the controller turn around in the sense of stop hurting you, this is how you do it. This is almost a direct path to doing it. So if you don't ask this type of question and you're just hoping and waiting for them to see that they're hurting you, or you know that they're intelligent to figure it out on their own, but you never ask the question, then you spend your life hoping and waiting and praying and wishing, and you go nowhere. In general, in this type of relationship, you go nowhere until you find out the concrete data that you need. Because once you know it, then you can take action on that. And I know some people don't want to take action. Some people don't want to have a conversation like this or the ensuing conversation. Because what does that mean? That means it's a truth that might be hard to handle. How do you deal with a truth that might be hard to handle? Usually you just push through it. You just figure it out because you can't make up the story of what might happen. You just have to push through yourself knowing that you could hear something that you don't like. And I don't really want to tell you this, but it really doesn't matter if you don't like the truth. It doesn't, because the truth is more important than the way you feel about it. And that sounds insensitive. I don't mean to be insensitive. I mean that it's important for you to know the truth so that you do something to get out of a situation where someone's hurting you? Does that mean you leave a family that's toxic? Does that mean you break up with someone who's being emotionally abusive? Does that mean you leave a work environment that is harassing and abusive? Those are questions that will certainly come up in your mind. And I don't know your situation. In fact, no one knows your situation better than you, which is why it's important for you to see it for what it is so that other people don't tell you what it is. It's important for you to look at your environment and your relationships and determine if they're toxic, determine if they are manipulative or controlling, abusive in any way, so that you aren't actually exposing yourself to these toxins, to this relationship radiation that keeps you where you are, unhealthy, unhappy, and in a rut. Because you never know where it's going to go. If you don't want to have the conversation, you can make up all the scenarios in the world of what might happen after you have this conversation, and you might be completely wrong. You could be right, but you might be wrong. But what you're doing is making it up in your head before you even have the conversation. Or you're making up what might happen to you or what you might be able to handle or not handle. And believe it or not, you're already resilient. If you are dealing with any type of abusive behavior, you've already dealt with and learned how to be resilient and tolerant of things that you probably thought you wouldn't be able to handle before the situation began. So this is something that you have to remember, that you have this strength, you have this resilience, you have this toleration. And I don't even want you to develop toleration for that. But this is what happens, is that you develop toleration for bad behavior, which helps with your resilience, which gives you strength to be able to handle anything that comes your way. And then you get into these conversations that can lead to concrete data to help you make the next decision, to help you make the next right choice for you. And the next right choice for you is always the right choice for other people that love and support you. I want you to remember that. That is the most important thing I probably have ever said on this show. And I'm not patting myself on the back for that. I'm just saying that when you make the right choice for you, those who love and support you want that for you. They want you to be happy. They want you to follow your dreams, your passion, your goals, your vision, everything that makes you happy. Assuming that it's not dangerous, assuming that you're not putting yourself in actual danger. Someone who loves you wants you to be happy, and they're going to support your decision to be happy, and those decisions are yours. And when you make that decision for you, it is right for you and for those who love and support you, because they're going to be happy that you're happy. Now, if you're reading between the lines, you know what I'm saying. And I want you to be careful around people that aren't happy with you making decisions that are good for you. Because the in between the lines message is those that aren't supportive of your happiness probably aren't the best people to be around, or at least need to be reminded of your worth, of your significance, of you deserving happiness and better treatment. At minimum, they need to know this. And you need to know this yourself. You need to convince yourself if you aren't already convinced. I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you are already convinced. And I know that I'm talking to more than just the victims and survivors of emotional abuse and harassment and all this, because a lot of people that tune into this show are also the people that write to me and say, look, I do this to my partner, to my friend, to my family. I do the things you're talking about to the people I love. They love these people and they know they're doing it. And when you love someone, you don't want to hurt them. This is why I answered the question at the beginning of the show, can the emotional abuser change? Absolutely. They have to have empathy. They have to be aware that you're hurt by their behavior, and they have to do something about their own behavior and work on that behavior. If not together, then alone, meaning they go to therapy, they work on themselves in any way, shape, or form, until they get to the point where when they're triggered, they don't take it out on you. Because here's what happens. When I was going through my transformation, when I was healing from my emotionally abusive behavior toward my wife when I was married, when I was going through that transformation, I finally reached a place where I stopped being judgmental. I stopped glaring at her when she would eat junk food. I stopped giving her the silent treatment when I was PO'd. I stopped doing a lot of things. I actually stopped the behavior. That doesn't mean I was fully cured of the triggers. And so if you're a new listener to this show and you haven't heard my episodes where I talked about my behavior with my wife, I recommend you listen to past episodes where I talk about that. I'm fully transparent with that. And my marriage did not last because of my behavior. So that was the greatest accountability that I needed in my life, to realize that my behavior wasn't acceptable, wasn't healthy, and my control over someone else's behavior was how to destroy love and connection. Because that's what it is. When you try to control someone else, you're destroying love and connection. This is why you hear about narcissistic parents and their children. The children want to love their parents. They really do. But the narcissistic mom or dad destroys that love and destroys the safety and destroys the trust by being controlling and manipulative and belittling and hurtful in many ways. And so the child, or the adult child now, is confused and really wants a parent, but can't get one. Can't get the one they really need in their life. So they go through life trying to find other ways to parent themselves, which is a very healthy thing. I endorse it. I recommend it. You need to parent yourself when you don't get that parental love and support and connection and everything else that we would get from a, quote, normal, healthy parent. You need to do it yourself if you're not getting it or haven't gotten it from them. And that's hard to do because where's your resources? Where's your reference? It's hard to know how to parent yourself if you weren't parented correctly. Not that there's one correct way, but in a healthy way. If you weren't parented with love and nurturing and support, how do you know how to do it yourself? This is work. I mean, this is the work. This is what you do. This is what you need to do for yourself so that you can heal. And so coming back to, can the emotional abuser change? Can they heal? Can they transform? The answer is yes, if they have empathy. And I'm repeating that on purpose because you need to know if they have empathy or not. You need to be crystal clear if they're empathetic, because if they're not, then they're not going to feel bad when they make you feel bad. And it's very difficult to be around someone who doesn't feel bad that they're hurting you. And you just want to be careful of what you expose yourself to and who you're around that does that to you, because what happens is you do become a little too tolerant of bad behavior. And what you'll end up doing is making excuses, saying things like, well, at least they're not hitting me, or at least they're not bad to the kids, or at least they take the dog for a walk, or at least, you come up with all kinds of at least thoughts and thinking. And when you start making those excuses, you are basically saying, I'm going to tolerate this behavior so I can keep that aspect of the relationship. And what this does is discount all the bad behavior because you're focusing on the minimal amount of good behavior or benefits that you want to have in your life. And some people get stuck there. Some people get stuck in that space of, well, at least this is okay, when 98% of it is not okay. Hopefully it's not that bad for you. Hopefully there's some behavior that you won't accept or don't like, and you can talk about it. That would be great. Because yes, empathetic emotional abusers can change. And when they know they're hurting you and they don't want to hurt you, there's even a greater possibility that they will change. But they need to do the work. They can't just say, yes, I want to change, or yes, I will do something about it. They have to do something about it. They have to be humble and realize that they are in the wrong and they're about to lose someone that's important to them, so they need to treat it seriously. They need to do the work. They can't just say they're going to do the work. And that might mean when they schedule an appointment for therapy, if that's the way they go, that they tell you, I have an appointment scheduled for next Tuesday with Dr. So-and-so. And then they actually do it. They actually go through with it. And then they continue going through with it until you see changes. The changes are going to be obvious. The changes are going to be real if they're doing the work. And one thing that everyone has to remember, including myself, I have to remind this of myself, not too frequently anymore, but often, where I ask myself, am I doing or saying this to control her? Am I doing this or saying this to get the outcome I want? In the sense that, am I manipulating her so that she'll say yes to this? Am I trying to set up the circumstances or tell the story so that it works in my favor? Because as much as that may not be seen as emotional abuse, it's definitely a manipulation. And so you have to be really careful when you are conversing, interacting with someone, that you're not doing some old default behavior that causes you to want to control them so that they'll say yes to you or they'll comply with something that you want. So remember these questions and make it a philosophy in your life in general to respect someone, even if it seems they're hurting you or abusing you, but respect them while loving yourself, and love them while respecting yourself. And what that involves is letting someone know exactly what they're doing to you. And you may not know the exact behavior. With emotional abuse, very hard to pinpoint the exact behaviors, and especially one component of a pattern of behaviors that will outline a larger scope of abusive or psychologically damaging behavior. But you do know when it hurts. You do know when you feel bad about yourself. You do know that you're experiencing something that doesn't feel right. And so just saying something like that, it doesn't feel right. What you're doing doesn't feel right. It makes me feel bad. Do you know that you're making me feel bad? They may say, I can't make you feel anything. That's up to you. That could be something they say. Then you can respond with something like, well, your behavior helps to make me feel bad. Don't you want me to feel good? I mean, you might have to get into a deeper conversation like that, because the conscious manipulator, the one who knows they're doing it and knows they're manipulating you or being abusive towards you, is going to want to argue with you. But how can anyone argue with your pain or your hurt or the bad feelings that you have inside of you? That's not a conversation you argue about. One can certainly try to invalidate that. You don't feel pain. You don't feel bad. And that's manipulative. So when that happens and you can't even have a conversation like that because they go directly to invalidation, then maybe the conversation is not worth having. And this is where you may not have the answers you want. You may not get the closure, but you also realize that every time you try to talk about how this is hurting you or this isn't good for us or the relationship, and they don't want to talk about it that way, they only want to talk about how it's your fault, then you're going to be stuck in that rut. That's where you are with someone that isn't going to go down that road and have a real conversation with you. And therefore the conversation will never happen. And you'll just have to make decisions for yourself because the other person isn't interested in making decisions together. And that's why it's important to nurture yourself, care for yourself, respect yourself, and love yourself. Because sometimes somebody else isn't going to be there to do that with you. And that's hard, and I know it's hard. But at least when you start looking at all of the dynamics of your relationships and figure out what's really not working and what maybe you need to do about it next, you get to make decisions that are right for you. I hope this helps. Thanks for joining me today. Share this with others that might benefit. Love and Abuse is the official podcast of the Mean Workbook, an assessment and healing guide for difficult relationships containing a 200-point checklist to help you not only pinpoint the exact behaviors causing the difficulties in your relationship, but will also clearly reveal to you why you leave so many interactions feeling bad. The workbook is perfect for you if you need proof that you're not losing your mind, or just need conclusive information to help you make the next best relationship decisions for both of you. You can also use the workbook on yourself to understand your own behaviors and how they affect those you love. It's available for download at loveandabuse.com. Not all emotionally abusive relationships have to end. Some can heal and grow from the challenges, and some can't. It takes both people willing to be honest and work on themselves, knowing that they play a role in what might be happening. If you're the only one working on the relationship, then you probably already feel alone. But know that this show exists to remind you that you're not alone and you're not going crazy. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You deserve honesty and sincerity. You deserve to be treated as worthy and significant. Because you are. Thank you for joining me today. We'll talk again soon.